Hi and welcome. I'm Jeff Chavez. With me is my colleague Amy Humphries, editor of the Richmond Chronicle, and world-famous author of My War, Killing Time in Iraq, Colby-Buzzell. Amy?
How are you doing today, Colby?
Pretty good.
Thank you very much for coming to Richmond.
Thank you very much.
What prompted you initially to join the Army?
As an escape kind of thing. At the time, I was living in San Francisco in a small apartment. Forgot how much I was paying, but it was a lot for like something not too much bigger than a closet. And I was working 2 jobs during the day. It was data entry, just sit in front of a computer and just typing, things into the computer. And at night, on the weekends, I would park cars, in front of restaurants in North Beach. Just parking people's cars, and yeah, that was my life, and I wasn't really going anywhere. And it was about a year after September 11th that I joined. I just one day, was like, if I don't do something fast, I'm going to live the rest of my life like this, or I could join the military. So, I decided to join the military.
Did your family's military background have anything to do with it? Because that's why I joined the Air Force.
A little bit. I think having a parent, my father was career military. I think having a parent, you look at the military as an option, whereas if you didn't have parents that were in the military, you don't even consider it as an option. But I think I know a lot of guys that I served with they came from families that served. But no, my father never tried to talk me into enlisting. But at the time, I think he understood, my reasons for wanting to do so.
And so it's 2002, and you enlisted in the Army infantry, or?
Yeah, I requested to be in the infantry.
So you probably knew you were going over there.
Yeah, I wanted to experience, Iraq up close and personal, and I thought, what better way to do so than to be in the infantry.
You were gung-ho.
At the time, yeah. I just wanted to. I looked at the military as an adventure, going overseas, going to another country, and I just kind of had an adventure mindset about the whole experience rather than, any patriotic or gung-ho reasons. I just had more of a, it just sounded interesting.
What was your recruiting experience like?
Well, at first I wanted to join the Marines, and in the Bay Area where I was out in the East Bay, there's a Marine Corps recruiting station right next to it, an Army recruiting station. And when I walked into the Marine Corps recruiting station, I remember seeing the Army recruiter just wide-eyed staring at me while I was walking in, and I didn't think much of it. And I wanted to enlist, but the Marines at the time, they had a quota, and I remember him telling me, we're way over quota. Kind of just had this uninterested attitude about me, and he made me fill out this card with my contact information and said he would call me if they needed me. And I remember thinking, this is bizarre. The whole time in high school, they kept on bugging me nonstop, calling me, wanting me to join. And now when I walk in and want to, seriously saying I'll sign it right now, they tell me they don't want me. So I remember I turned around, and right when I turned around, I saw the Army recruiter standing right there, right outside the Marine Corps door, and he had all these papers, and I walked out, and, we shook hands, and, he was, saying, have you ever thought about joining the Army? And I was like, no, not really, I want to join the Marines. And he was like, okay, and then he mentioned something briefly about 2-year enlistments and $4,000 signing bonuses. And I remember, like, what'd you say? And he's like, yeah, signing bonuses and all these perks. And then he guided me in his office and, sold me. He's sold me the Army like it was some Club Med vacation. He's just like, yeah, all these benefits. And at the time I was, had to worry about rent and food and all this. And the Army, it's, sounded like a pretty good deal. Everything's all covered. So
you get in there, go through basic and your infantry training, and they send you to Iraq?
Correct. With the very first ever Stryker Brigade combat team out of Fort Lewis, which at the time was non-deployable, but as soon as I got to the unit, they made it deployable, and I forgot how long it was, maybe 6 months afterwards, we were sent to Iraq.
And how long there until you started blogging? How did you get into blogging?
I was in Iraq for about 8 months. When I first started blogging, it was an article in Time magazine called Meet Joe Blog, and there was a brief mention in the article about how soldiers over there were blogging, and I went to the internet cafe. After reading the article. I've never heard that word before, blog. I had no idea what one was. and I saw that there were soldiers in Iraq blogging, so I just decided right there and then to.
Was it like like a light went over your head, or was it more
Yeah,
gradual?
it sounded like something to do. Like, this sounds cool. Other people are doing it. A couple of officers even. Screw it. Like, yeah,
why not?
Go ahead and mess around. It's something to do.
Well, you started blogging under CBFTW. Can you tell us what that stands for?
Well, CB is my first name, and I remember you have to do a screen name and I was like, okay, CB. I'm sitting at the computer and I can't think of anything, and I have FTW tattooed on my arm right here, and I was like, oh, it's FTW, okay, and then that's how it all kind of started.
CBFTW.
Yeah.
I guess we can't say it on the air, but
I always tell people forgot the words.
Forgot the words. There you go.
So why did you stop blogging? Tell us how long you blogged and what the reason was that you stopped.
It was towards the end of my deployment, and I stopped for several reasons. I was ordered to stop, and it involved writing about a firefight that happened on August 4th. It was this big a big day for us, probably the heaviest day that we encountered over there. And the next day I went to the internet cafe to see if there was anything in the media reported on that day. And the only thing I came across was a brief paragraph on CNN's website, pretty much essentially saying nothing happened. And while researching that paragraph, I saw that they pretty much just cut and pasted what the Army press release said about what happened that day. So, I had a blog. I had the blog page open. I wrote, okay, here's what CNN wrote on their website about what happened. And I cut and pasted that paragraph that was on CNN's website. And then I wrote, now here's what really happened.
Right.
And I remember, sitting there in front of the computer going, okay, how do I start this thing? And I was like, well, just start from the beginning. And I was like, okay, I was sitting in my room reading a book when the mortars started coming down. And I just kept on typing and typing and typing, going from there, going from, how, we were ambushed on the street and how, we received contact, how every vehicle in our platoon got hit multiple times by RPGs and how we had to go. It was pretty much just an intense day. And I remember I forgot how many thousands of words I wrote, but I remember just getting tired at the end of it and just, press and publish, and then it went up on the internet. And I didn't really think too much of it until the next day when I went to check my email, and I saw that I was getting, it was completely full with emails from people all over. I guess people were reading it and emailing other people's about it, and it just kind of, exploded from there.
And you had a fan base already back in the States, or a reading followership at this point?
There was loyal followers, people
Right.
that followed it every day and comment every day, and then there'd be times where if I didn't blog, I was blogging pretty consistently over there, sometimes a couple times a day. But if I didn't blog, people would think something happened to me, and they'd email me being like, are you still alive? Are you okay?
I did have a question. There's certain pictures you cannot show of war. Were you censored at all by the Army? Or was it pretty much what you wrote and that went out and then you would deal with it later?
Deal with it later. I mean, at the time, I don't think the Army really knew what blogs were.
Okay.
So
it's
it was
like
kind
under
of
the radar.
Yeah. I mean, now they're totally aware of it, and
Okay.
there's soldiers are briefed on how to go about doing one. But at the time, no, I was anonymous, and no one
Your
really
stuff
knew.
was monitored at one time, wasn't it?
Later on, I mean, once
Were you confined at one point?
I was confined to base, while they were reviewing my website, my blog, to see if I was never really told why. It was just one of these weird things where I just was told I was confined to base. And but then a couple days later, they released me, and I was able to go back out on missions.
And did all these blogs lead to, how did the book come about?
The blog. I mean, once
You had
once the blog, NPR did a story on it in the Wall Street Journal.
Okay. So there was some buzz and some heat.
Yeah, and then from there, people asked me if I was interested in writing a book, and I said sure. So I got out of the Army, I wrote that, and that's how it all started.
It's My War Killing Time in Iraq. And do you want to have some questions about the book? Actually, you've read the book.
What are your who are your literary idols?
So many. I mean, of course, like Jack Kerouac and like Hunter Thompson and Charles Bukowski. I read a lot of him, but
right on the front of your book is Kurt Vonnegut.
yeah,
With that quote there.
Well,
read all of his stuff.
he actually read the book as well, and his comment was, "My War by Colby Buzzell is nothing less than the soul of an extremely interesting human being